Welcome for the Nishta satsang on Mondays. Let us begin with our Shanti mantra. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavagai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma Vidvishavagaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Okay. So last class we have been discussing some questions, and we left with this question. I think this question is from Mr. Pranav. We say the purpose of yoga is to attain clear thinking. So is this the purpose of yoga? We will look into that. So this person is saying that the purpose of yoga is clear thinking. Probably somebody told him that. We say the purpose of yoga is to attain clear thinking, but what specifically does yoga give clear thinking about? So what clear thinking about what? That's what he's saying. So which is good. Two people with similar levels of sadhana and mental purification may still disagree on issues such as politics, or may have differing opinions or views on different situations or topics. And I have also heard great practitioners and teachers use logical fallacies in their thinking, or have their thinking shaped by their cultural or social background. Good. So we will deal with this question part by part. First, the purpose of yoga is to attain clear thinking. Is that so? Yes and no. Ability to conduct your thought in the direction that we have willfully chosen. I have chosen a direction of thinking. I have chosen an object of thinking, a subject, a topic, or a focal point for thinking, and I am able to conduct my thinking in a steady flow in the same direction. In the chosen direction, I am able to conduct my thinking without losing sight of where I am going in this thought process. The goal. I am sticking to the same goal, and I am allowing all my thought processes to flow in that single direction. This is one kind of clear thinking. So when you say clear thinking, it can mean so many things on so many levels. So one aspect of clear thinking that we try to achieve through the practice of yoga is this ekagrata. Ekagrata, very technically defined by Maharishi Patanjali, would be the same vritti coming in the mind again and again and again. It's like the same pulse, you know. So I am thinking about Ganesha. Say, Ganapataye Namaha. Suppose I am thinking that, and I am thinking of Lord Ganesha. So the same mantra, Ganapataye Namaha, Ganapataye Namaha. Same thing. There is no other thought in the mind comes up with only that. Or if I say the name, you know, Vakratunda, I think of that. Same, keeps on coming. Rama, Rama, Rama. Only that. This is ekagrata. According to Patanjali, the same vritti repeating again and again with nothing else, with no other thought or object coming. The mind creating the same vritti again and again and again. That is ekagrata parinama. Now, that is one kind of ekagrata. But generally in the Shastra, in our practice in sadhana, we also accept the flow of thoughts in dhyana. So ekagrata in the context of the one pointedness in this context of dhyana would be the devotion or the flow of thoughts in one direction. I choose a goal, like the activity of the mind, all the activities of my mind, different kinds of activities of my mind, be it imagination, be it memory, be it some right knowledge, be it some projected knowledge, wrong knowledge, or sleep doesn't come here. So what, be it memory or thought or emotion or concepts or ideas, any kind of thought activity, any type of thought activity is directed towards that one single goal. Suppose if I am thinking of the same, let's say Lord Ganesha, I have the mantra, I am remembering the mantra, smriti, memory, and I am repeating the mantra. While repeating the mantra, I enjoy the sound of the mantra, or I enjoy, and while I am chanting the mantra with focus on the sound of the mantra, I am also appreciating the meaning of the mantra. Right? Vakratunda means the one with the twisted trunk. Vakratunda means twisted trunk. So I am Ekadanta, the one with a single tusk. So the meaning of the single tusk. Then probably I will remember the Puranic story about how Lord Ganesha removed one tusk for the sake of writing Mahabharata. There is a story. Or he used one tusk to kill that Gajamakasura. Like that we have stories. So some of that might come. So the meaning of the word also comes to my mind. At the same time, my emotion, I have a certain emotion, a love towards the deity I am meditating upon. So I am meditating upon Lord Ganesha. I have a certain emotion. It brings a certain delight in my heart. So I'm having that. So then I might have a personal relationship with my Ishta Devata, the chosen deity. In our current discussion, Lord Ganesha, I might consider Ganesha like my friend or like my brother or like my guru or like my Lord and I am his servant, anything. Or, if you are a woman, you might consider him as your beloved. There are a lot of ways of having a personalized emotion towards one's Ishtadevata, in this case, Ganesha. So I have that emotion. And while doing dhyana, I might also think about the various aspects, the big ears, then the pot belly, Pasha, Ankusha, and all that, Abhaya Vardahasta, and all that, right? So all these are different thoughts. Each one is a different thought because there are different objects and emotions are there and ideas are there, concepts are there. Though all of these are different, all of these are directed towards one object, one purpose or goal, which is Lord Ganesha. So this is dhyana, where the mind, all the activities of the mind are aligned towards the dhyana vishaya, right? Sajatiya vritti pravaha. Swami Dayananda Saraswati used to say, Sajatiya vritti pravaha, vijatiya vritti rahita. That means, this general definition, traditional definition. All the thought patterns that are not connected to the topic of meditation are avoided, and I choose to conduct all the thoughts that are relevant to my purpose, the goal of meditation. I'm doing that. In similarly, for example, if you are doing the meditation as a nishkamya karma, as a mental activity, the meditation for the purpose of liberation, not for the purpose of getting some things done. Like Lord Ganesha is always used for any emergency. I did not study for exam, then I am, I put one quick application, into the street corner Ganesha temple and then go to the exam hall to make sure that everything goes fine. Or after writing the exam, I put some application so that the examiner somehow puts the correct mark for me. All this, these are all the student at the student during the student time we do that. And there is always, when you are traveling, you break a coconut and pray that you should reach safely to the destination and all that. So these are all kamya karma, that is goal oriented meditation. So here I am going to do this meditation as nishkamya karma, without any personal motive. The only motive is the Lord. So in that case, I can encourage thoughts about the omnipresence, the omniscience and the omnipotence of the Lord, the thoughts about surrendering to the Lord, thoughts about offering my personal will and my personal likes and dislikes at the feet of the Lord. So making him the goal of everything. That would be Nishkamya Ishvara Pranidhana, it is called in yoga. So I could do that, but I cannot do suddenly when the concentration is very good and I feel the presence of the Lord, immediately put on application for a personal desire. That would be not aligned with the goal of meditation. My goal of meditation is purely devotional for the sake of purity of the mind. So personal motives are not okay here. While the thoughts about surrender, any personal ego related likes, dislikes, identity related thoughts, things come, I conduct those thoughts and emotions in such a way that it facilitates surrender to the Lord. So that becomes an aligned vritti. So I am also aligned with the purpose of the meditation. I am aligned with the object of the meditation. So the different thought patterns and movements of the mind are aligned in one direction. So that is also clarity of thinking. So we talked about two kinds of clarity of thinking that we use in yoga. This is one. And another example given for clear thinking, in the sense, it is not clear thinking, we can call it as clear mind. Like how the surface of a pond that is absolutely still, no movement in the surface of the pond, you can see the reflection of the moon in it. In the night, if you go by a pond, you can see the reflection of the moon. I throw a small pebble, then you have those waves on the surface, and the reflection of the moon is disturbed. You have the broken moon, a lot of flashes of light, but I don't see the moon. And then I wait for some time and all the disturbance in the surface of the water settles down, and then I see the clear moon. So in the same way, when the mind is an absolute sattva, when there is zero rajas and no tamas and no rajas, shuddha sattva is predominant in the mind. The mind is absolutely still, not seeking anything, not moving towards anything, completely still. It shows the true nature of oneself as something other than the mind. I am the conscious principle that is not dependent on the mind, and I am separate from the thinking faculty. So the separation between the consciousness and the thinking faculty lights up, that becomes evident in a mind that is absolutely still. Mind still means no thoughts and no intentions, no urge, no movement of the ego. So that is one kind of clarity. So basically, when you say clear thinking and clear mind, it can mean two things. One is one-pointedness, another is absolute stillness. Ekagrata niruddha, right? Two. One-pointedness, absolute stillness. This is what Yoga Shastra says. Now there is one level below where it is called restrained mind. Mind wants to move. There is a kind of restlessness, but I am controlled. I am keeping it under control. It's like the horse. It's like a dog that wants to run, but you keep it on the leash. So like that, I keep the mind on the leash with prana control or with strong will. So the moment I lose my control, the mind will run. or I do a lot of fasting. So the moment you put some salt and some masala and some onion and garlic inside, the mind will run. So this is called vikshipta. Vikshipta means it's a kind of a controlled, restrained mind that gives some kind of clarity, that lets you focus and lets you do. So most of us experience what is the kind of clarity called vikshipta, where we are temporarily able to have some working space so that we are able to attend to our duties and to our responsibilities in a decent manner. Any normal, healthy mind person is able to do that. So sometimes what happens, we are carried away by the mind, emotions, thoughts, anxieties, etc. That is called kshipta, where the mind is not clear at all, right? So not clear at all, restrained and fluctuating clarity, one pointedness, clarity as one pointedness, and clarity as complete stillness. So these are the different ways in which we understand the clear mind and the clear thinking in terms of Yoga Shastra. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of clear thinking? If I am able to master my mind, so I will put it in one line as mastery of mind with the help of yoga. So if I am able to master my mind with yoga, I have a certain decent level of mastery of my mind, let us say. Why should I master my mind? Why should I control my thoughts? Why should I become familiar with the and to develop the ability to sustain the still mind or to sustain the one pointed mind? Why should I develop that? That is where how yoga is an accessory for knowledge comes. Because the next point this questioner asks is, what specifically yoga give clear thinking about? Now, a simple example would be a sharp knife, or a clear, let's say a clear mirror. I say a clear mirror. So what is the purpose of a clear mirror? We say, oh yeah, it can reflect clearly. I can see my face clearly. In the case of a car, I can see the rear view mirror. If it is clean, if I remove the dust, I can see what vehicles are coming in the back. Yeah. So similarly, what is this clear mind about? So the mind is basically of sattvic nature. The inherent nature of the mind is sattva. But the mind gets colored by rajas and tamas. Sattva is clarity, awareness, etc. The mind is the instrument of knowledge. Mind is basically the organ of information and knowledge and facilitating consciousness. So that is the quality of sattva. So whenever rajas is there, there is activity. So it can be necessary activity or unnecessary activity. Fear and ignorance propelled activity or knowledge propelled activity. Okay. That is rajas. So rajas can serve sattva, or it can serve the other quality called, the third quality is tamas, tamoguna. Tamoguna is lack of awareness, inertia, indolence, dullness, darkness, ignorance, all that comes under tamas. Tamas is not evil. Tamas is necessary. Sattva, rajas, tamas, all the three qualities of nature are necessary for life for a different context. For example, when there is no tamoguna, we cannot sleep. So tamoguna has to be there in order to have a healthy 6 to 7 hours sleep in the night. But tamoguna, when you are all through the day, tamoguna, not always feeling dull, not feeling like doing anything, you are not able to attend to your responsibilities, staying depressed, all these kinds is tamoguna working where it is not supposed to work, excessive tamoguna. So mind is fundamentally made of sattva. Rajas and tamas are supposed to be there in the right proportion, and during meditation not supposed to be there. If I want to think about something, there must be no tamas and just the right level of rajas in order to sustain my direction of thinking. Okay. Now, Clear mind means predominantly sattvic mind, right? So being instrument of knowledge, it's an organ, it's an internal organ, right? The mind is the internal organ. The mind is conducted by the faculty called buddhi. So there are two aspects to the mind. One, excuse me. So the mind has two aspects. One is, it's a broad classification. There are different kinds of classification. There is this manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara kind of classification. There is also a broad two-way classification, decisive mind and the natural mind. That is chitta and buddhi classification. So here I'm using that just for the sake of explanation. There is consciousness or an experience of objects of a field of experience. There is a field of experience where I am experiencing a field of experience, and I have a personal interpretation of the field of experience, which is knowledge. Okay, so there is thought, thinking, objects of thinking, objects of the senses, and all that, and my understanding of my current experience. So there is experience and understanding of experience, right? So this understanding of experience is buddhi. So when you say, what is this clear thinking about? What yoga gives clear thinking about what? It doesn't, yoga is only an accessory. Yoga gives you the capability to think clearly. What you will think clearly about depends on how you have trained your buddhi. So that is where pramana comes. Pramana means the means of knowledge. How I am, how I am operating the means of knowledge, right? Now let us say I have the ability to, let us say I have the ability to understand very subtle differences in taste. So now I could be a tea taster, I could be a wine taster, chocolate taster, or I could, after the Naivedyam is done, I could always, taste the prasadam and say today's prasadam is like this, like that. So this should be changed. So now I have the ability to taste. I can taste a healthy food or I can taste unhealthy food. How I use this ability is up to me. So what is deciding? It's a faculty, right? The faculty of taste is very fine, or the faculty of smell is very fine. And I use the faculty of smell according to my decision making, right? So that is why yoga is called as Tattva Darshana Upaya. Tattva Darshana Upaya means it is a helpful accessory for understanding the truth of anything or the truth of the self. So if I am operating a means of knowledge, if I am using my sensory knowledge, or if I am studying the scriptures, if I am studying logic, so I have to apply my ability to think. So I have to conduct my thought in the direction of the Shastra. Suppose if I am studying Shastra, I am studying Vedanta. So Vedanta says some things. I might agree with some things, I may not agree with something at the outset. Now, we have a quality called Shraddha. So, I am supposed to study the scriptures, what the Shastra says, what the tradition says. When you study Vedanta, you should study with Shraddha. You should listen to Vedanta from your Guru with Shraddha. Okay. With the faith, or with a complete surrender of your ego. That's what Shraddha is. So, when the teaching is talking something that is not in agreement with what I already know and what is already familiar, Shraddha as a quality demands that I question my conclusion, I give the benefit of doubt to the teaching and I question my conclusion. My conclusion is going to look as correct, and what the teacher or the scripture says is going to look wrong. That is exactly why I am not agreeing with that. I may call it as a logical fallacy, whatever. So, but when I am employing my logic, the quality of Shraddha or that surrender demands that I conduct the logic in line with the teaching that I have received. Giving the logic is conducted, giving the benefit of doubt to the teaching, not conducted in a way to justify my conclusion and strengthen my conclusion against what is being taught. Because logic is again a tool. So this is where, as a pramana, as a tool of knowledge, this is where we need to understand the most important point in a spiritual tradition is, though the revelation of the truth about the self, the world, Brahman, God, etc., the spiritual truths that is revealed in the scriptures, in the teaching, in the Vedanta, in the Veda, though it can make logical sense, if I don't have Shraddha, it can make me feel like as though it is complete nonsense. There was some British colonial, religiously motivated one scholar who studied all the Vedas. His job was to translate all the Vedas in English so that he can help the missionaries to come and convert and talk bad things about the tradition. That was his job. He was given money for that. So after reading all the Vedas, he said, these are all prattlings of an infantile mind or something like that. He said, all the Upanishads are basically nonsense. That was what he said. The same person later, when he became a little old, a little mature, and then he saw the errors of his own mind, the same person said, this is the greatest knowledge that has ever been in humanity. And then so many other scholars said great things about the Upanishad. So because you are an intelligent person, because you have a very sharp intellect, that does not mean that you are going to interpret the spiritual knowledge in the right direction. So sharp intellect is a tool, but that direction in which we are applying the tool of our intellect is not decided by the clarity of mind, but it is decided by your samskara, or the what you call as your shraddha, your deep-seated commitment that is nurtured by all the residual samskaras in your causal body. Whatever you are born with, depending on the level of good karma and the spiritual culturing, and if you want, just for the sake of common appreciation, I usually don't use this word. Just for the sake of common appreciation, I'm using this word. If your soul is mature, if your soul is spiritual, if you are a spiritually awakened soul, then you will have the right samskara or the right tendency to use the logic in the correct direction. So this quality called Shraddha helps us to conduct our logical inquiry in the direction that gives benefit of doubt to the spiritual teaching and questions our own conclusion. Then it is possible for the scripture as the knowledge, the pramana, the Veda or the Shruti pramana to work in us. It is possible for the spiritual teaching to transform the quality of our thinking, to transform the way in which we see ourselves, to transform our fundamental worldview and self-image. That's what it is. So you allow the pramana to operate on you, which means you allow the teaching to transform your way of thinking, the direction in which you think. the way in which you see the world and yourself, the way in which you see the world yourself and the concept of God and everything, the what you call as your fundamental worldview and self-image will completely undergo a transformation if you allow the benefit of doubt and if you allow the spiritual revelation to work on you. For that, I will have to conduct my logic according to Shraddha. Now, the Shraddha doesn't come by yoga. The Shraddha is cultivated as a deliberate value. The Shraddha is a value. Okay. So there is yoga does not give you Shraddha. For example, if you are talking about yogic practices like pranayama, concentration, and all that, you read in our Puranas, in our scriptures, in the Puranas like Ramayana, Mahabharata, you see all the Puranas, all the Puranas and Itihasas, our epics, if you see, they talk about the demon kings, the Asuras doing tapasya. You see Ravana doing tapasya, sitting in the middle of fire and standing on one leg. We see in all those Ramayana TV serial and other movies that are based on our Puranas. We see there is always this guy who is torturing himself and he's sitting on a bed of thorns, and then he's meditating and then meditating on some god Brahma or somebody to come down and give him some boon. After all that, when the divine being comes in front of him, this guy will ask for some completely stupid boon, like that he has to dominate everybody, he has to be the most powerful, he should not be killed by any weapon. After getting the boon, he becomes very powerful and then he goes around and tortures everybody else. But that person is a master in yoga. He has mastered. The asuras, or the evil-minded demonic beings called the asuras, are masters in yoga. Ravana was a great master in yoga. His son Indrajit was a great master in yoga. So he was able to do phenomenal levels of, he had phenomenal miraculous powers with the power of yoga. So he could create illusions and he could even give a tough time for even Rama and Lakshmana. So that is a level of mastery of mind they have. So mastery of mind is not a problem. It is something like a skill with hand. I have a very good skill with my fingers. That skill, I can use that skill to become an excellent surgeon, to save lives, or with that skill I can become an excellent pickpocket, or chain snatching, like a thief, a very sneaky thief. That is also skill of the finger. So the skill is a skill. So yoga is a skill of mastering the mind. Yoga does not give you the right direction of thinking. The right direction of thinking comes from your samskara, from divine grace, and the direction of thinking is pointed out by the scriptures, by the Veda, by the teachings, by the Dharma Shastras, by the Veda, by Vedanta. So Vedanta talks about how to conduct your thought in a way to realize your true nature. Dharma Shastra talks about how to conduct your thought, life, and everything in alignment with the universal order, so that you become more mature and you have a more prosperous, stable, and a more meaningful life. So depending on pravritti or nivritti, if you want an active life or if you want a withdrawn life of renunciation devoted to knowledge, depending on that, the knowledge part comes from the tools of knowledge, the instruments of knowledge, the praman. If I want to make a nice painting, yoga allows me to stay concentrated and avoid unnecessary thoughts and keep the image in my mind, but it is my eyes that are revealing what is on the canvas. It is my hands that are helping me move. It is the skill as a painter that I have learned, the skill of the artistic skill that allows me to paint. Just yoga alone will not make me a great painter. If I am having the skill of painting, yoga can help me to be free of the inner clutter that allows the best painter to come out. Similarly, if I have to think in a certain direction, Yoga empowers me to be able to conduct my thought on a sustained basis. Every time I have to think about something, my mind will cooperate, my emotions will cooperate, my intellect will cooperate, and I will have a very high degree of inner awareness over my mental processes. And whenever I make an error in my judgment, whenever my shraddha is disturbed, whenever my uh, contrary emotions are there, I will be able to become aware of the error much quicker than a normal person. A yogi, a practitioner of yoga, will awaken to his or her own mistake in a much earlier level of manifestation than a common person who is not a yogi. A simple example, let us say, about talk about anger. Okay, now I have this phone. I keep on trying, the network is not coming. I am very irritated, very pissed off. So what I can do is, stupid phone, throw. After throwing, then I will say, oh yo, the phone is gone. So that is one level. The next level, I can probably catch I can regret after I do, or I can catch the anger. I can do like this, feel like throwing the phone. Yeah, but I should not throw the phone. Yeah. Okay. I catch my anger before I throw the phone. So phone is escaped. But still, the force of the anger is in the body. Now, before that, I see that I am irritated. I am catching the anger before it becomes the force in the body. If it's just starting, then I can do some, I stop everything, take a breath. I'm able to do some other practices or watch it, just receive the anger, and then I'm able to convert the anger into something constructive, because anger has a lot of energy, inner energy. Then I'm able to conduct the anger in some, either calm it down or redirect it in a more useful way. I used to, for example, I heard about one of my grannies. Whenever she gets very irritated or angry, she will take all the brass vessels in the house and start cleaning them, because brass vessels are heavy maintenance. You have to all the time, you have to clean it with vibhuti, this and that. They keep on getting some kind of you know some kind of a mild level of corrosion that makes it look dull. So whenever she gets time, that extensive cleaning is required with tamarind and all that. They do the cleaning, and the bronze and brass vessels will start shining. So whenever she gets angry, she used to bring all the brass vessels from the storage and start cleaning them. So that is the constructive way of redirecting the anger. Yeah. Some people, they clean the toilet, they clean the house, they wash vessels, these kind of things. So, or you write it up, you express all your thoughts and everything in a paper or in a document, and then you delete it or keep it for reference later. So you are able to work at that level. Now, with a little bit more of yoga, you can, whatever is the thought pattern that makes me angry about it, I can convert it into empathy and love and understanding. And the same situation that makes me angry can invoke a sattvic vritti that is more elevating for myself. For example, a situation that will help me to use that unfortunate circumstance to develop vairagya. So as a person who is devoted to moksha, this is very useful. Or if you are a very if you are a very pro-life person who wants to achieve a lot of things, so if something is not working out, then you use that situation to examine the other opportunities and the alternatives, and you don't struggle in a useless manner, and you are able to reassess your assumptions, or you are able to create, you sit and work with, create the right affirmations, spiritual manifestation, they say. So all this is possible. At what level I am able to catch a movement of mind that is not in line with my purpose. So the ability for clear thinking is always connected to my purpose or purushartha. Clear thinking about what? clear thinking about my purpose in a given moment, which is aligned with my overall purpose in my life. The later purpose, the overall purpose of my life, that gives the direction to all my immediate purpose, what you say as goal and objectives. So whatever I do now keeping in mind what is my ultimate goal, my keeping in line with my fundamental values. So my values and my ultimate goal in life and all those things help me to align my immediate purpose. And based on that, I'm able to think clearly. And yoga helps me in conducting my thought in line with the purpose, level 1. 2, it makes me aware whenever I move away from my purpose, I am able to recognize how I am moving away. Every time I move away, I am able to catch myself much earlier and bring myself back online. That is one level where it helps me to think clearly. And also yoga gives me the freedom at the level of ego. That is a very important point. Yoga gives me the freedom to operate my functional self, my identity, my ego. I will be able to operate it with much more objectivity, like how I am commenting about others. No, we are all great in giving advice to others and commenting about others. You are not doing this correctly. That is not correct. No, you are thinking too much about yourself, or you are no, you are not giving enough self-respect. You don't have this, or you have that. You have excessive confidence, overconfidence. You have inferiority complex. We are able to say all this about others, but are we able to look at ourselves with the same amount of objectivity with which we are commenting about others? So yoga giving us clear thinking also means I have the ability to be completely objective about myself in all my levels of function. I am able to be objective about my body. If somebody says, oh, you are too fat, I am able to take it objectively. I don't create an identity out of it. I am able to see if I am fat or not fat. Should I thin down or I don't have to thin down? So I'm able to be objective about that. Being objective about every level of myself, every level of functioning of myself, allows me to align myself with the right knowledge. What is right knowledge? Right knowledge is that which is revealed by the right instrument of knowledge. So if I want to know what is, so then is a pramana concept again, one of the fundamental concepts in Vedanta. So it's either perception, logical inference that is conducted in line with Shraddha. There is a beautiful line in Sadhana Panchakam. I will complete the class with that. So I'll come back to that. So conducting the logic in line with the purpose and the commitment, and all different kinds of logical inference, scientific inquiry, all that comes under that, and the Shastra Pramana, the what is revealed by the scriptures. So listening to what is revealed by the Veda and the Parampara and the tradition and the teacher, one's guru, listening to that with a complete attitude of surrender and acceptance, as you know, because what is revealed by the scripture, what is revealed by the Veda as Pramana. When you say Veda is Pramana, you assume it talks about things that I don't know. I can never know. Veda talks about certain things that I can never arrive at with perception or logic. A simple thing about consciousness. Today I read an article which said the scientists are saying that one of the theories, the latest theories, consciousness evolved not for the sake of the individual but for the sake of society. In order to preserve the species and in order to preserve the ecosystem, consciousness becomes necessary. It was a necessary condition for optimal functioning of nature or something like that. Basically, conscious for the optimal functioning of the society and preserving of the species. So consciousness evolved for the sake of society and not for the sake of individual. This is one conclusion. There are so many other conclusions about consciousness. Then there is this hard problem of consciousness. Is consciousness an emergent property of matter, or is consciousness independent of matter, which is fundamentally existing even before the creation of matter? These questions are all hanging there. Science can never answer this question because the power of consciousness is completely outside perception and inference. And Vedanta talks about that. A small example. So this is what is relevant for enlightenment. So I am mentioning this. So I can never arrive at that logically. So for there are certain things for which only Veda is pramana. So from there I take it. Let us say the words of the Guru. So I take from there and then I allow that those to work, and I work with myself, pending discovery. Okay. So with Shraddha, I allow, so when I have this clarity and the complete objectivity about myself, I am ready to question my conclusions, and I am ready to question my self-image. I am ready to question my deepest worldviews and commitments with the same level of objectivity with which I am able to question others. Yeah. So that level of objectivity about oneself at all levels of functioning is a certain kind of clarity. It's called viveka. So this viveka, or kushalaha, it says viveka kushalaha, this dexterity in thinking, that is also one quality of thinking that develops with the practice of yoga when it is taken completely. Not yoga simply as concentration, but yoga with you take, yama, nima, and then all the levels when you go, and then Ishvara Pranidhana and japa, etc. All that put together, and the study of the Veda, then the study of the scriptures, Swadhyaya. When everything comes together, the whole package, then this clarity of thinking, the clarity of mind awakens in so many angles, in so many levels of the mind, in all the areas of the mind, in every department of the mind. So mind is like a huge, if you think of mind like an university, there are so many departments. So this mind with so many department of memory, there is a department of analysis and understanding, there is a department of comparing and contrasting, data processing, there is a department for becoming aware of the field of consciousness. There is a department that tunes into different fields of consciousness, chitta. That is the I am aware. Now we are all in the waking state, hopefully. So, and then suppose if I am too boring, you doze off, you go to sleep. That is, it's like going into another room. You are completely shut off here. You are in somewhere else, and then from there a dream projects. You are in some other place. Then you suddenly wake up. You are in front of your computer. So in the dream you are just taking a walk in Kaban Park or somewhere. Then you wake up. Now you are in front of your computer. And then this is waking. So it is like going from one room to another room in your house. You are going from waking state to dream state to sleep state, and again coming back, right? So shifting of the zone of consciousness. So that is one department. So all these departments are regulated by prana. So the practice of pranayama helps you to have a kind of mastery over that. So all these aspects have to be taken into consideration when we say clarity in thinking. So we had a broad view of that. And let's see what other point I have left. Now, two people with similar levels of sadhana and mental purification may still agree on issues as politics, or may have different opinions or views or different situations or topics. Absolutely, yes, but that has nothing to do with yoga. It has something to do with their own individual conditioning. And as I told you, I may have a conclusion about something. You may have a conclusion about something. I may have arrived at it using certain means of knowledge based on my samskaras, etc. But yoga, the clarity of yoga allows us to be more objective about it and subject it to the rigor of inquiry, objective inquiry based on pramana, based on the valid means of knowledge. It is possible to analyze that. So if two scientists, devoted scientists, devoted scientists means two scientists who are completely devoted to the goal of science, they arrive at two different conclusions. Let us say they don't have any, they may have personal motive and all that, but when they meet and discuss, they have the maturity to put aside their personal motive and conduct a very pure inquiry using the tools of science for the purpose of science, right? Similarly, when yoga practitioners who have the right kind of shraddha, if their shraddha is the same, and if their if their shraddha is the same, and if their sampradaya is the same, sampradaya includes shraddha. So when the shraddha is similar, they will have more objectivity and they will be able to arrive at a consensus. If their shraddha is different, it is the problem of the shraddha that they are having two different conclusions, and then it comes debate, what is called as vada. So then in the debate, they are surrendering to the rules of the debate, and whoever loses, that is how, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, when he established the Advaita Parampara as the Advaita as the true vision of Vedanta, when Shankaracharya established that, he debated and won over 72 schools of opposing thought. So many schools of interpretation was there. He defeated 72 schools, and then he established Advaita as the declaration of Vedanta, as the true meaning and declaration of Vedanta. Vedanta is Advaitic in nature. The Vedantic vision is Advaitic. That is what Sri Adi Shankaracharya established. So there was debate, but all of them were devoted to the truth. So it is possible to come, but it is not possible. For example, let us say two people let us say an Astika and a Nastika. Let us say I respect Veda as Pramana. There is another person who doesn't consider Veda as Pramana. He considers Veda as some kind of dogma. He doesn't bother about it, doesn't respect it. Now we both have two different conclusions. I say Atma, Brahman, that person says Anatma, there is no self. Now these two people may be masters of yoga, but one being an Astika, another being an Astika, one being the person who considers Veda as valid means of knowledge, another person does not respect Veda. These two will, in spite of being in the same level of sadhana with respect to concentration of the mind, etc., cannot arrive at the same conclusion. They will have different conclusions, but still, because of the refinement of yoga, they can gently agree to disagree. So that is what, because the problem is not in the practice of yoga, but the problem is in the nature of the Shraddha. Two people with conflicting kinds of Shraddha cannot come to an agreement, and that is not the problem of yoga. So the clear thinking, the direction of thinking is decided by Shraddha. So that is a beautiful imagery. So this Shraddha and all this thinking is regulated by the dimension of ourself, which is called Vijnanamaya Atma. So me as the Vijnanamaya, the knower and the doer. So this Vijnanamaya is imagined like a bird. The head of the bird is Shraddha. So Rig, it's Ritam is one wing and Satyam is another wing. The truth in action and the truth in speech, they are two different wings. Let us say the objective truth and the truth in speech. There are two different wings. And then concentration is the body. And then the tail is rooted in the cosmic intellect. Like that, one imagery is given. So Shraddha, it is using Ritam and Satyam. It is basically, let us say, you are using information and knowledge. The information and knowledge is used by the individual according to the Shraddha. So wherever is your commitment, according to your commitment, you will use your knowledge. According to your purpose and commitment, you will use your knowledge. So if two people are not agreeing, though they are in a similar level of sadhana, so we have to inquire the nature of the inner commitment. What is this person committed towards? What is that person committed towards? That is not a problem of yoga. So it is a problem of Shraddha. And it is not a problem because it can be handled in a mature way. And I also heard great practitioners and teachers use logical fallacies in the thinking. and have the thinking shaped by cultural or social background. Of course, every acharya comes from a certain cultural background, and the moment you are a human and you grow up in a society, you will have conditioning in so many levels. That is not the ground for rejecting the teaching. That is the ground for understanding the human limitation and to develop more objectivity about our own condition. So we are not going to gain anything by blaming, oh, that acharya had some cultural bias. Okay, he had cultural bias. So what? You don't have cultural bias. If that acharya, why should you, if some acharya has
Kindly stay online. Acharya ji will be back.
yes, here, I'm sorry, some power cut issue. Yeah, I switched on. No, it's okay. So, if an acharya has a personal bias, it tells you nothing about the teaching. It doesn't talk about the validity or non-validity of the teaching. So we should have the maturity to see which is the bias and which is shastra. So we have to learn. It's a growing maturity. We will understand in time what is shastra and what is bias. We can always check, is it his cultural bias? If it is his cultural bias, how much should I respect it or ignore it? And taking this into consideration, how to understand the true import of Shastra in this context. What are the other teachers saying? That is why the Vedas tell you to listen from so many sources in so many ways, and to listen so many times, and to listen from various sources and from various experts, so that you develop that objective, right kind of understanding. But when we say so many sources, it means so many sources who are committed to the same purpose and who have a similar kind of shraddha. So with that way, if you take in the teachings, then we don't allow the, we are able to take the personal biases of the teachers or advanced practitioners. We are able to take it with more empathy as a human condition. Because even Sri Adi Shankaracharya, I'll tell you, there is a beautiful story of Manisha Panchakam, where Adi Shankaracharya falls at the feet of a Chandala in Kashi. There is a story there. You can read about it online because today the time does not permit. If you read that story, he recognizes that, he acted out of a certain ritualistic conditioning bias. Though it is completely valid, that incident is seen as a demonstration of how much he is able to be objective about his own conclusions and instantly surrender a lower truth to the higher truth. So the lower truth of acharam, if I am taken a bath and I am coming out and going to the temple, I am supposed to maintain a certain ritualistic purity. It is completely valid. What Sri Adi Shankaracharya did there was completely valid. Still, when the Chandala is bringing out the higher truth about the self in front of the Paramarthika Satya or the highest truth, this ritualistic purity as a valid condition takes backseat. It is not important anymore. The higher truth is important because all the ritualistic purity and all the various practices and the religious practices that we have, the disciplines that we have, are originally, they are meant for preparing us for that highest truth. So when you are encountering that highest truth, you can drop everything else and surrender to the highest truth. So that is the point that he's making there. And that was then he sings that stotra called Manisha Panchakam. So you can read about the context in which the Manisha Panchakam was chanted composed by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. It is available online. You can read about it. And if you have any questions on that, you can ask me. So because I will revisit that question. I think I answered all the aspects of this, and I have also heard great practitioners and teachers use logical fallacies in the thinking. Yeah, it is there. It's because a logic is a tool, and any tool needs to be sharp. And sometimes, because of situations, a tool can get blunt. If they use logical fallacies, suppose if I use a logical fallacy, I welcome you to point it out and let us work with that, and let's see how to correct the fallacy. And you can always, if you're very sure that it is a fallacy, you can question the teacher. You can question that. Our whole tradition is based on questioning. You can question the teacher and say, I feel that this is a logical fallacy. Can you explain it more? Of course, there is a way of questioning where you don't question your Shraddha. You keep your Shraddha, but you still question from your Shraddha, not to prove your point. So with that case, if you question, the teacher will be very happy to look into it, and you can discuss. And in a context of samvada, it is possible to resolve those contradictions. And of course, no matter how advanced a person is, the culture and social background is going to shape the mind. And we generally consider a person with a more sattvic cultural and social background, we give them more benefit of doubt to their conditioning when compared to a person of tamasic or a rajasic background. So all people have conditioning. A person from a very tamasic way of life and a family lineage, a person with a very rajasic family lineage, and a person with a very sattvic family lineage and associate social structure. Okay, all of them have conditioning. But if I have to listen to someone regarding knowledge and spiritual things, I go to the person who has the maximum sattvic kind of conditioning, because that kind of conditioning is conducive to knowledge. So social conditioning and the background, the cultural background is very useful, provided the background is in tune with what is your purpose. Suppose if I have to become a warrior, I have to go to if my purpose is to become a great warrior, I have to go and learn from a person who comes from an extremely Rajasic and a Kshatriya background. So only that person will inspire me to become a great warrior. Not, I cannot go to a very learned Vedic Brahmin and who is not specialized. I'm not talking about Dronacharya. He is an exception. A normal Vedic priest and a temple priest who is very meditative, very contemplative, very kind, or a monk who is very kind. I don't go to that person to become a warrior. After I become a warrior, I go to that person to get the right kind of advice on in what is the right direction in which I should apply my passion. For that, that person will help. So depending on the purpose, different kinds of conditionings that one grows up with can be useful. So the conditionings are not to be rejected completely. Conditioning is not a problem, provided it is aligned with the quality of mind and body required for pursuing the intelligently chosen goals, right? So with that, I will conclude this session. I will give time for one question. Is there any question connected with what we discussed? If you're already
Namaste.
having the question and restless, you can ask. If you have to frame the question, you forget it.
Namaste.
Namaste. Yes.
I would like to, for the next session maybe, I'd like to hear more about the significance of Shraddha itself.
Yes, but I think I explained. Maybe I will
Yes,
talk
yes,
about
you
it
did,
more
you
in the
did, you
coming
did,
class.
you did. Yes.
So Shraddha
Right.
directs our thinking. The direction in which I conduct my inquiry is pushed by Shraddha. Shraddha gives the direction. Shraddha, it can be understood in so many ways. When it comes to the context of directing my line of thinking, it can be called as my most deep-seated commitment. My thinking follows my commitment. That is why, if you conduct your thought in the right method, with enough objectivity about yourself, then it will question the validity of your commitment also sometimes. So that way, I am having complete Shraddha in the tools of logic, but it has its own limitations. So when it comes to things that are outside my level of understanding right now, I have a Shraddha, like a benefit of doubt, given to my mentor or the teacher, which allows me to conduct my line of thinking in a way that allows me to learn. So it's something like that. Yeah. So that is the basic point of Shraddha. And we can discuss more, and more questions on Shraddha are welcome in the next classes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavadishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you. Thank you.